All right, welcome everybody. This is my third time to do this video. So my name is Daniel Young. I'm the owner and operator of Adaptive Perspective, and Adaptive Perspective navigates your finances on Facebook and Pinterest. I'm going to keep saying it because it's true. I believe that it's my purpose, my calling, to help you identify your dreams and to help you reach your financial freedom destination and maintain it so that you can pass your wealth off to the next generation. And like I've said, I've tried to record this video twice, this being the third time. The first time, YouTube paused on me, and the second time, this laptop paused on me. So hopefully neither pauses on me. The past three videos, I've mentioned a few lessons for another day, and I would like to dig into one of those. Those lessons provide some much needed backstory for our own journey. They offer some important lessons for your journey, and they also help us filter and better understand those upcoming financial memes. So the topic I want to get into today is the 4% rule. So what is the 4% rule? So say we take the common investment advice of $1 million invested into the stock market at large. Although I did see an article yesterday saying that some millennials feel uncomfortable without $3 million to $5 million invested into the stock market. Consider that. 1 million is hard enough. 1 million is hard enough. So using the 4% rule, I completely understand why some people are uncomfortable with 1 million invested. Because speculative investing, meaning you buy stock on the hope that it goes up, meaning you buy Apple. Apple pays a paltry dividend, but the general consensus is that 10 years from now, the company will be worth more than it is today, meaning the share price will be more than it is today. But that's speculative, meaning you think it's going to go up. And when you think stocks go up in price, whether they do or not, it tends to leave you missing out on the dividend boat, and it leaves you searching on how to make ends meet. So let's look at at some point during this, I'm going to be doing some live math, meaning I'm going to take a blank piece of paper and a Sharpie and write some stuff down and share it with you. So let's take the investment assumption, but it's not going to happen every year. It didn't happen last year, right? So 4% is the money, but at the same time, it doesn't make anything. It breaks even. On the surface, it looks like it breaks even. But if you dig a little bit, you'll find out that it doesn't break even. So in reference to last year, the market lost money across the board. Okay, 2022 shouldn't happen every year, but 2022 did still happen. So what did we lose? The Dow lost 8.8% overall. The S&P 500 lost almost 20% overall, and the NASDAQ dropped 33%, a third of its value, with those facts coming from CNBC. So consider that effect on your $1 million invested. And if all your stuff is in the NASDAQ, and I'm not going to tell you where to put your money I'm not going to tell you what exchange to put your money on. You're going to invest your money where you want to invest your money. But consider if you had $1 million, and consider if all of that money was invested into the NASDAQ, your principal, not the money you take out, not any of the dividends you receive, your principal balance dropped a third. So the going advice is that you have $1 million invested, right? And all of a sudden last year, it drops a third of value. So now you don't have $1 million. You have 670,000, however you want to divide 2/3 into that. Atrocious. So the 4% rule says the market will gain at least 4% a year. But it doesn't happen every year. But on average, it does. So that means you're going to have to live through stuff like last year. Right? So the 4% rule says that the market will gain 4% a year on average, which means you can take 4% of your portfolio out every year and break even. Right? So technically, your portfolio stays even keel. Your principal stays there, but it also doesn't grow. It's just flatlines. So that sounds good on the surface, like my $1 million is still there. And pending we don't get another 2022, right? But that's what it looks like on the surface. And there are some concerns screaming for our attention. So here are the problems. One, I don't know if you can see that one, but yeah, one. The man who invented the 4% rule is no longer following the 4% rule. 2022 made him change his system. He found that he needed more to exist on than 4% of his portfolio's value. That's concerning. I mean, we don't follow the 4%, but if you do, that's concerning. Okay. One step further. So, number two, inflation will eat the overall value of your portfolio. So, the current inflation is at 4%. So, if your dividends pay less than 4%, inflation is eating those alive. And it's eating anything you speculatively gain on the other stocks you have. Now, reason three, when you built your portfolio of whatever you own, you built it and grew it through DCA or dollar cost averaging. So that means if you bought a stock at 4, then you bought it again at 5, then you bought it again at 6, the average of that is 5. When you're growing your portfolio, that helps you. But the inverse of that is true when you sell, because even if you're methodically doing it, but if you're scheduling withdrawals throughout the year, so you bought it as it went up, right? And then it tracks up and down. So you're buying it to kind of get a general average. When you sell, it might not be at its high point on that wave pattern. So every stock goes up and down a little bit, right? But when you pull the screen back, it's either trending up or trending flat or trending down. So when you sell your stock, even though you bought it on that DCA trend, so now it's worth more than when you bought it, when you sell it, the inverse is true. You might sell it at a high 1 month and then it drops in value and now you're selling it for a loss. That's not good. That's not good investing. That's a horrible financial strategy. Now, we know the market won't always make a 4% gain. I mean, again, see 2022. So in a year where the market breaks even, at best, 2022, we lost money, right? Across the board, depending where you were invested and how you were invested. The market, whether it impacted your portfolio or not, the market as a whole lost money, okay? But in a year where the market breaks even on the surface, you're still dealing with a 4% loss of inflation or a 4% loss from inflation. So if your $1 million is still $1 million on a neutral market year, at the end of the year, you're still losing money based on inflation, right? So regardless of what your stocks do in the future, if your dividends aren't above 4%, then your portfolio is actually losing worth every year because of inflation. And in that, most people, when they retire, pending you don't retire early, we'll say before 50, most people, when they retire, are retiring on a fuller pension or some type of retirement system, right? But that means they worked their way to get there. So everybody who hits retirement age or beyond is living off of more than $40,000 when they retire. Why does that matter? I mean, that's the easiest question. Why 40 grand? And why is that a problem? So if you remember that $1 million invested, which here, we'll do some basic math. And no, I didn't do any of this in advance. See, blank paper and Sharpie, same side, just so you see, same side. So let's look at this. So when you write out a percentage, we'll say 4% is actually 4.00, however many zeros you want after that 4. But to convert it into a number we can multiply by, you have to move the decimal over. So I'll still add those zeros behind, but I'm going to add 3 zeros in front. So that 4% changes to, right, it was 4.0%, but now we move it 2 decimal places. So when we multiply it, it's actually going to be 0.04. So 1 million times 0.04. Let's see, I've got my phone here. So if you pull out your handy phone and input your calculator. So, right, blank screen. 1 million times 0.04 is $40,000. Or the math, which I get it's reversed, but there's the math. So if you're living on, say, if you're mid 40s, you're living on, say, well, no. So if you've got a blue collar, white collar, working professional job or a corporate job, you're making 70,000 plus a year. And when your retirement hits, your retirement account is going to pay you money out of that for your retirement. So you're going to go from making 70,000 plus a year to now taking 4% out only of your portfolio. So you're going to drop your overall income from 70 to 40. That's crazy. Okay, that's like you're suddenly going to somehow change your lifestyle. Like your whole life is built around whatever money you're earning now. I mean, your mortgage, your bills, all of that stuff. So when you retire, you're going to go from potentially making 80 grand a year to suddenly making 40 grand a year. The assumption that you'll suddenly decrease your lifestyle and cut your spending by at least half is crap advice. And I could say it differently. That's the nice way. That is crap advice. That's like looking through binoculars that a seagull's crapped on and looking through them like there's nothing wrong, like unobstructed view. Okay, that stinks. That's crap. So from my point of view, the 4% rule needs an update. And by update, I mean we need to ditch the 4% strategy for something a lot better. Well, why? Well, if you didn't like the decrease in lifestyle, if you didn't like moving from your whatever salary to dropping to 40 grand a year, if you hit $1 million, if you have $1 million invested, if most of us aren't going to get there. Okay, there's a way to retire off 500,000 and still get way more than 40 grand a year. But we're not there to that video yet. So let's explain more about the 4% rule. Different piece of white paper. We'll see. Okay, so think about this. So if you're single, maybe the 4% rule still sounds like a good idea, right? Like, sure, I saved $1 million. It's only 4%, meaning if I only take out 40 grand and the market gains 4% a year, I'll come out equal. But the money doesn't grow. So the problem is it's not just the 4%. So you've got the 4% living expenses, right? It's at least 8%, right? So, oh, excuse me. I'm looking through my notes and trying to remember what I wrote. So it's, say you're taking out 4% a year, right? That's the advice. But that 4% is really 8% because that's what you're living off of when you retire, right? 4% of $1 million is 40 grand. 8% of $1 million is 80 grand. That's closer to what you're actually living off of when you retire right now. Who knows what the cost of living and all of that other stuff will be 10 years from now. Okay, but it's not just that 8% for your living expenses. It's also 4% a year for inflation. So the 4% rule as a single person actually is 12% a year. So your $1 million at 4%, if the market goes up, right, and you take out 4%, it flatlines, but it never grows. Well, even if the market gains 4% a year, you're also losing 8% a year. And when the market flatlines, when you don't make anything, right, your portfolio loses 12% a year. And in years like last year, it loses a lot more per year. So 4% a year out, 4% a year gained, it flatlines indefinitely, right? But if it doesn't flatline, like last year we lost, but we'll say it flatlines. Okay, it's 4%, 40 grand, but it's really 8%, 80 grand, plus the 4% for inflation. So you're losing 12% of your value every year. So instead of having an infinite retirement, you just get 9 years-ish off that 1 million invested. That's not that long. Problem is, if you're married, it's worse. Okay, so if you're single, so like speaking in nautical stuff, I like puns, I like sarcasm. My business, yes, is navigate your finances. So if you're single, 4% rule tears your sails. If you're married, the 4% rule runs your ship aground and leaves you for dead. Okay, so again, if you're married, it's not 4%, it's 8% per person, right? Your $1 million invested for both of you in your retirement doesn't get you as far. So for you, that's 8% a year, right? 80 grand a year. That's what you're used to living off of. If you're married and your retirement is helping your spouse retire, pending how your system, how that works, you're actually losing 8% a year for both of you. So that's 16% a year loss in value, plus the 4% loss in value. So you're actually losing 20% of your portfolio value a year. So that 4% infinite retirement system doesn't work. Instead of the infinite retirement, you get 5 years. That's it. That is a short and quite honestly, a shitty retirement, right? And I think that explains why we see older Americans return to work after retiring, right? We have society, we have these financial brokers who I think Kiyosaki appropriately says broker than you, right? Like brokers are, so I don't want to mix his term, mix his quote. But financial brokers leave you broker than they are. I think society's advice and the advice of many financial brokers, many financial advisors is broken. Okay. This country needs us to stay in the workforce for a lot longer than we want. It's the only way the government's going to pay for stuff. But the sad truth is the 1 million invested. So based on the 4% rule, the sad truth is 1 million doesn't cover it. The stocks and bonds 60-40 split, that advice on the 4% rule, so standard broker advice, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. You hit retirement and then you take 4% out every year. That is shitty advice. And that is a broken financial strategy that will end your retirement fast. Especially in years like 2022. People want to say 2022 was a fluke. And I don't think it is. I would love for the market to gain this year. I think the best thing we can hope for is that overall the market levels. Our goal, as always, is to use our closed-end fund system to pick funds that, yes, have the potential to grow, but also not, yes, the goal is that they grow. Let's be honest, the goal is that all of them grow. But regardless of what those stocks do, our goal is to use our system to where our dividends pay us regardless of what those stocks do. Our principal stays intact. When the market goes up and down, whatever the principal is worth on a given day is whatever it's worth. So our principal stays intact. We don't withdraw it. And we live off the dividends. Now, we're not retired right now. That is the goal. We're not retired right now. But the goal is to build that portfolio to where our dividends roll in and we leave our principal intact. And with that strategy, you can retire off less than $1 million or more than $1 million for that matter, depending on how you build the portfolio. But you also aren't you aren't in that broken category of advice. You aren't dealing with all the crappy broken advice, and you're living off the dividends instead of living off what you hope to gain out of your portfolio, or say what you hope to gain off the price increase of your portfolio. I'll be honest, and I hope I'm always honest, but I'll be transparent that we didn't come up with that strategy on our own. We did a lot of reading, looked at a lot of different methodologies of how to invest in the market, and the Contrarian Outlook run by Brett Owens and company offer the best solution. And it makes the most sense to us. We're emulating their approach. Keep your principal intact, live off the dividends, right? Except we're going to take it one step further. We only invest in closed-end funds or CEFs. So that if you reach $1 million invested, based on the current average, so there's 400 and 55 different closed-end funds right now, I think 400, maybe 447. But if you reach that 1 million invested mark, based on the average of every single closed-end fund right now, you're making a solid $80,000 a year. Okay, and that's a low estimate because you're not going to pick the funds that don't pay you anything. You're going to pick the funds that can pay every month and the funds that have a slow or a quick growing dividend. Right? And there are funds that pay monthly, and there are funds that pay annually, and there are funds that pay quarterly. There are funds that pay biannually. All the single stocks that you can find on the market, from my experience so far, you can find in a closed-end fund. Maybe not everyone, but almost everyone. Like if you want to buy Coca-Cola, we own that in a closed-end fund. If you want to buy Microsoft or Apple or Amazon or Tesla or NVIDIA or Samsung, all the single stock companies that all the standard advisors and brokers push, we own through closed-end funds. We get into the market cheaper. Our principal stays intact. We get consistent dividends that we then roll into buying more stock so that we also get better dividends back. Our current portfolio, I want to say, so I updated that today. Our current portfolio generates 9.02% annually. Okay, so off a million invested, that would be a little over $90,000 a year. How we do that, I'll do it on the next video. The 4% rule. So if you go to my Pinterest page, I capture all of these different financial means and I label them, and I'm honest, brutally honest. Now I'll limit what other Facebook account is posting them because I don't want to call out somebody. I don't want to slander anybody. But you have countless different financial advice pages pushing and advocating for the same financial means. Some of them make their own means. 98% of what I see says buy the dividend champions and buy the dividend kings and buy the dividend aristocrats. Buy these single stock companies because they pay you, speculative. Buy these single stock companies because they raise their dividends every year, and buy them because in speculation they'll grow, so they'll be worth more one day than they are today, and you can get a good dividend when you buy them. And the vast majority of them pay you under 4% a year. Like buy Apple because it'll be worth more one day, and it pays you 1%. I can own Apple in a closed-end fund and get paid 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12% a month. Okay, and I can get it cheaper. I can get more shares of it, and then I get a higher dividend payment because I'm buying more shares of it. Okay, and it doesn't just give me Apple. I can buy Apple and Microsoft and Amazon and this and that and the other. It's better than Robinhood. It's better than the ETF bundles you can buy. It's amazing what you can accomplish through a closed-end fund. It is amazing what you can accomplish through a closed-end fund. But how we actually do that is my goal for the next video. So if you enjoy the content, consider subscribing to my channel. Hit the thumbs up or the like button, and then head over to Facebook. Join my group there called Navigating Your Finances. And the link should be below. If not, sometimes YouTube doesn't like external posted videos or external links. But if you go to Facebook and search for Navigate Your Finances, if you go to Pinterest and look for Adapt Your Perspective or Navigate Your Finances, Adapt Your Perspective, you'll find my group there. Yeah. Lots of content, hopefully not a long video. Remember, As you go through and you start to improve your financial literacy, and as you make progress on this financial freedom journey, remember you have the power to change your life and you have the power to change your financial future. Many people will offer to help you. I want to help you, but only you can make the choice to do it. Make it happen. Shock your world. It's possible. You can change. That ultimate dream that you want to accomplish, you can do it. You're just going to have to change your methodology in order to get there. So give it some thought. Daniel Young signing off. See you on the next.